Any disaster has a life cycle of its own, and the first phase is the heroic phase. And that's what we saw that first night in the afternoon in the response to Von Mar, and that first night at the Hampton Inn. It's where people are rushing in. It's rescue phase. It's where people are trying to help. It's where responders are working maybe 24 hours a day. There's not a lot of breaks. People are very happy to be there because they're happy to do their job, not because of the situation, but because this is what we are trained to do and we do it well. That phase, depending upon the size of the disaster, can last anywhere from hours to days, maybe a week. After that, it's the honeymoon phase, and that's where people still are working really well together. They, again, are trained to do this job, and the people that we are working with are happy to have us there. They're thankful. Sometimes we'll see people lining the streets with signs in New York. That's one of the things that we saw, is that there were people standing outside of everywhere that we were stationed, and they had signs saying, thank you for helping us and thank you for being here.
Okay.
After that phase, and that phase lasts anywhere for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, again, depending upon the size of the disaster or the cause of the disaster. Man-made disasters tend to lengthen any phase. But the next phase is what's called the disillusionment phase. And during that phase, that's where problems start to come up. People aren't getting along as well. People become very angry. It becomes very noticeable in the media. You'll see headlines about people complaining about insurance or about victims' funds, that people are feeling like their needs aren't being met. And that, again, is a very normal reaction, very common reaction in a disaster, and it happens regardless of what the disaster is. Our job as responders is to try and plan for that, understand what the situations are that might come up that we might need to deal with, and be proactive in that regard, but to also, as responders, not take it personally when it occurs, because we know that it is a common reaction. And then the last phase is the recovery phase, where people start to put their lives back together. We start planning for the future, and not everything revolves around the disaster itself.